Well, welcome ladies and gentlemen to this run through of the brand new Furuno FCV-800 depth sounder, colour depth sounder, linked to an SCX20 sat compass. Once again, I'm doing this on another wet and windy day here at the inverted commas Sunshine Coast. It's a couple weeks into a spell of bad weather now, and I've had a few technical difficulties doing this video, so anyway, this is about the fourth or fifth attempt to do it, but hopefully we get through it this time. So yeah, massive improvement on the 588 series. Mr. Furuno's really done his homework with this machine. Fixed a lot of issues that were present with the old series. Independent gain for each frequency, that's a big one. Also the twist knob and push speeds things up rather than using the cursor full time. Only negative I've found so far is the bracket does chew up a lot of real estate, and I've had to totally redesign the layout of my dash to make it to fit compared to the old 588 bracket. So anyway, it's very rugged, but it's it's a much bigger bracket, and that's only an issue if you're bracket mounting. Obviously if you're flush mounting, it's actually quite a modern display where the glass goes sort of right to the edge, and it's a very square shape, not an oval type shape, so it is going to actually be probably easier to flush mount than the old series. So we'll go through the screen, then we'll go through the buttons and what it all means and how I've got my set up, and I've been using it since Christmas pretty much. Yeah, I think in the new year I was definitely rolling with it, and it's taken until probably the last month or more to get on top of everything. We did have some network issues with just settings, like the network was fine, but in the settings just to get the sat compass operational. So now we've got that operational, you know, we've got pretty good results. So we'll start off here. So you can see, so we're on high frequency 200 kilohertz, and our gains on auto frequency. We're on screen advance ×2, 11.8 volts. Well, I've been at the jetty for a week and a half at least without going out, so yeah, I actually am on battery charge at the moment. Ambient water temperature outside from my transducer 24.8 in the canal system at high tide. We've had a pretty hot summer. There's been a lot of 28-degree days, 29, you know, if not 30 on the shelf some days with the when it gets a bit of sunlight on it. So I've got a temperature graph here. So it's set on narrow, so you can see it's 20 to 28, and like it says 24.8. So constant temperature. Obviously no temperature breaks here in the canal while you're sitting still, but when you're out at sea, go through a different patch of water, you will see the little temperature breaks sharp on your graph. So that's why I do that. Over here you've got the color bar, so that shows your density. So I've got my white as my bottom, like my white line, so my densest color, and typically with this palette and Furuno it's usually maroon, but see, maroon's my next one down. Then you get into your oranges and yellows, greens and light blues. So very often we mark our pearl perch around here in a light blue color. I will mark snapper with a bit of red in them, a bit of white in them, but good marks if you hit them just right. You know, you can see all your bottom strata here. We would be essentially on mud, and this Furuno does have the capability to run all of that bottom structure information if you so want, but I rather run mine in really totally raw data. and then interpret it myself. So anyway, well, I might just hit range. We'll go back to 5, so you can scroll with the button and push it. So, and then I've also got my shift down 1, so I might take that off too. Hit function, scroll the button, push it. So now I'm in 0 to 5 meters as my range. My marker there is 0. My bottom is 3.41, so I've got the small numeral size. So there you can see it's 3.41, and I've found that the gradients on this unit are way more precise than the old series of 585, 588s. Like you could be out, say you're in 62 meters and you're on a 0 to 60 range, you'd still be marking it. But now as soon as you get 60 meters on a 0 to 60 range, or in this case if we were 5, it would fall off the bottom of the screen. So I found, like, you know, it's way, I guess in some regards that's more accurate. It doesn't really matter because obviously the transducer is set to say that the bottom here is 3.4 meters or whatever. So that's how your screen looks. We'll start pushing a few buttons. Oh, we'll start with the power button. So this is slightly different. So we hit the power button. You've obviously got your brilliance up here, so it's on 9, so maximum. But your button colors or the button illumination used to be a function of your screen intensity on the old unit. So as you back your backlight off, your buttons would illuminate more, but now they're two independent buttons. So you got your panel, well, that's just my backlight, so we'll just pump that back up, go back down with the, oh, oops, oh yeah, so we've just gone back to 0. Okay, here we go, the panel dimmer, so I'm going across. I've got that on max, but you'd only want that at night, so we'll just keep it sort of somewhere here in the middle. Oh yeah, that's how it explains it there. So your brilliance is on the knob, and your panel dimmer is on your left and right. So anyway, that was the power button, so that's slightly different, I guess. Okay, we'll start at the top here, mode. So this is slightly different in this new unit than the old unit. The mode used to be one of your twist knobs here, and it was all preset. Now this is a bit like pages in most other units. It's fully customizational, and also this machine now has 2 transducer ports, so you could run like a conventional 5200 like what I'm running, then you could run a chirp port, and then through your mode screen you could run any combination of those, split any which way, just however you wanted to display it on the screen. So that's all fully customizable. There's a menu thing for that which I'll show you soon, but this works like the old dial knob. So I've already got a few in here pre-made up. So like my main one is obviously my high frequency, low frequency. Say when you get out the shelf, like my split frequency between my 50 and my 200. So when I'm marlin fishing, because the 50 side being a wide angle will mark them off to the side a little bit more, and that's say if you had a chirp transducer, the high wides, you know, they're even wider again. So you know, you might have a conventional 5200 and a high wide, and you could split your screen, you know, between the 2 transducers. You can see up here now my header information, so my gains on auto frequency for both frequencies. So we'll go back just to the high, push the button back on 200 kilohertz. That's mode. We'll get into the menu. So menu, so sounder, here we go. So push that. So my picture advance is ×2, so that's what I find best for me for marking yakka schools and stuff. I think guys that work the shelf a bit more probably run it back on 1:1. Range shift, yeah, I don't have anything there. I'd make my function key down here, my shift, and then just do it manually. Interference, so this is more to do with, say you're in a school of boats and everyone's transducers interfering with each other. You can go into this interference setting and start playing in here to try and clean your screen up when you're getting bombed by other transducers. Color erase, I don't play with that, but certainly people on the shelf or whatever may just get rid of a little bit of clutter, so you can, you know, get rid of your lighter colors, your blues or your yellows if you need to. I guess when it's grayed out like this, that's something to do with, because I'm on auto gain. If you're on manual gain, you've probably got more things at your disposal. So yeah, I don't play with clutter, color expand. Do play with this though, my white line. So this is where I've set it up. So I've got a white bottom and I'm on 99%, right? So we can go back to 100%. That white lines it all the way out, but I've got it just on 99. Marker, so I've got a white, this is my marker up here and it's white. You can just change the colors in there. Okay, TVG is grayed out because I'm on auto gain. This is where you would play with your TVG if you're on manual gain, and this is different compared to the 585, 587, 588 series, where it was TVG was high, medium, low. Now what you do is you dial in your distance that you want the sounder to concentrate on, whether that is the bottom or whether that's the depth that you expect to mark your fish. You dial that in and then you just start playing with the TVG level sort of in the 3, 4, 5 sort of range. That's the only things you really play with here in this new setup, and it's the same in the big Furunos like the 1150. They work like this too. So your default's like 0 to 100. So if you're working sub 100, just leave it on 100. But say you were out on the shelf in New South Wales marlin fishing and you're at 180 meters, but you expect to mark the fish at 60, you could still keep that at 100. So anything sub 100, and then you just start playing with your TVG level to, you know, get the screen to look how you want. So if you opposite, say you're out in 180 meters and you're deep dropping and you want to look at the bottom wall, then you would make your TVG distance the 180 or 200 or whatever depth you're in, and then you start playing with your TVG level. So that's a little bit different on this machine than the old series. Like I said, I got smoothing off. I just like the raw sort of information. Bottom zone, don't know much about that. So that's your seabed thing, which the Furuno will do for you automatically, but I'd rather look at the raw data myself. TX power, yeah, so I'm on 5, so that's max. TX rate, so I'm 10. I don't think that really all matters. Res boost, so I've got that off. That's probably only a thing, you know, for chirp, or the old series wasn't necessarily 100% a chirp machine, but it sort of used its processor to create chirp like effects with the res boost. So now this is actually a chirp machine. So that was in the sounder display, so we'll hit escape and we'll go menu, go down to display, displayed mode config. So this is what I talked about before, and this is like Pages and all the other brands, right? So this is where you go in here, you set it up, what mode, what frequency, whether it's split, you know, how it's split, etc, etc. Also your nav information down here, and so we've set up nav stuff in my mode 6 and 7. So that's where you make all your customizable screens, and that is a fair bit different to the old series, but it is good. And then of course you got, like I said, you got dual transducer ports, so you can have all sorts of screens with all sorts of transducers and frequencies and splits. So that's in your display mode config. Window size is grayed out, so I'm not you know, whether that's because I'm an auto again. A-scope, I've got that off. Certainly a lot of people don't mind A-scope. That goes back to the old, you know, Lowrance Hummingbird flasher days with the, you know, standard technology when it first come out after the war, and the US Bass Pros and stuff, and it'll have like your little flasher thing over here on the side of the screen, and as something comes through your beam, it shows up instantly on your A-scope, which is like your old flasher. Some people like it. I'd rather just dedicate the whole screen to, you know, what I'm looking at. And then that's the other thing too with this new machine, and especially because it's linked to the sat compass, I now have scroll back facility. So when I'm running along, I drive over a pinnacle and I go, oh bugger, I've missed it, you know. On the old system, now you can hit mark, scroll back, and say your pinnacle's already back out off the end of the screen over here. You can scroll back, hit it again, and then your lat and long will come up, and you can enter it into your plotter manually. Or if you are linked to a Furuno machine like a TZ Touch or something, it will throw a waypoint across, or a mark across. So yeah, that's another advance with this 800 machine over the old series. Depth size small, like I said, I'm maximising my screen. Zoom marker on, yes, because I usually like to run marker zoom rather than bottom lock or auto zoom. Temperature graph narrow, like I said. Colour bars on, just usually when I'm describing to my customers, you know, what my colours mean, I just show them the colour bar. Colour scheme, yes, I'm on the blue palette. I've always sort of been on the blue palette since the old days of being in the JRCs when they used to rule the roost, you know, whatever years ago, 20 years ago. 64 colours, might as well make use of all your colours and all your pixels. Obviously the only time I've seen problem with the blue or black palettes, sometimes with people flash mounted on the dash, if it's a bit flat, sometimes the white palette does actually seem to work better. I've seen that before in the past with someone who had one flush mounted, so that you just play around with that or use whatever you're familiar with. And you know, certainly a lot of people do run the white palette and, you know, maroon as their hardest color. Header scale time, so I think it does have these like color bars, so you can see one going across there now. Yeah, that's some function, I guess, on your screen advance, blah blah blah, versus time. And of course Furuno does do the fish sizes, so mathematically I guess the Furuno engineers know how long something's in the cone, how fast your screen scroll speed is, blah blah blah, distance, etc., density of the water, and they can work out fish sizes. And I know some guys swear by it. Like I said, I just like to run all of my stuff fully raw data. Hit escape, get out of that. So that was display. Alarm, I don't have anything set up there. You can, you know, set up all your different fish sizes and stuff, and they alarm like in Wicked Tuna, the same sound that you hear on the TV show. That's a Furuno alarm. I've played with it, but anything on your screen that's between the top and the bottom usually sends it off. It just beeps all the time then, so it's, yeah, something I don't play with. Obviously if you're linked with your plotter, you've got navigational stuff, speed and arrival information, it'll alarm, so I won't worry about that too much. Data, okay. Go to waypoint, well I'm not set up on a Furuno plotter. Waypoint list, I guess this is a little bit different. The old one, I think it had 10, maybe 20, but I think it's just 10 marks. And what would happen is you'd fill your 10 marks up on your 585 or your 588, and then I don't know whether there was a way to do it or not, but the way I did it was just a system reset. But in here we do have the ability to delete all waypoints once you fill your waypoints up, I guess. Data box, so yeah, like I've got voltage as my one data box, water temp as my second data box, bearings true, and wind speed and direction true. Well, I don't have a wind speed machine, but I guess if you had anything on your Enemy A2000 network, it could all come through here, but obviously I've got a bit of data coming in from my sat compass. So hit escape. Alright, go down into system and range. So this is one I use a lot. So I set up all these custom ranges. So I'm mostly, when I'm my day-to-day fishing, I'm all this 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 90 meters, and I, as soon as I can move 10 meters on my screen to maximize my pixels, I do. Usually if I'm trolling and say I'm out in 85 meters, then I'll go say set at 90, and then sometimes you're jumping between say 85 and 100 meters. Usually these bottom two scales, I change them around quite a lot, so they might be 100 meters and 110 or 120. So I'm always flicking between those two, and then when I go out in the shelf, once again I'll set these guys, might have 300 meters on that one and 250 on that one. So I'm always changing my ranges, and this is the screen that you do it. So at the moment my zoom range is set on 20, and because I'm a marker zoom, I'm moving 20 meters up and down the screen. If I was on bottom lock, my bottom lock's set on 10, so that's where you do all that. So we hit escape. Key, this is just where you get your key beep, and like I said previously, my function key down here I've made as shift. Language is English. Units, so I run in meters, some people run in fathoms or feet, whatever. I'm Celsius because we run the metric system here in Australia, but you might be Fahrenheit, whatever. Fish size, well that's if you're doing the fish size thing, and I guess you can make that centimeters or meters. And then if you had all Enemy A2000 stuff feeding in, we obviously got all this other information here. So we hit escape. Network, so this was important with getting the sat compass going, so we hit sensor in use. Okay, so this is where we had to set up, and I don't think I did have this set up, that my heave wasn't working. So I'm getting my speed over ground information from the SCX20 sat compass, I'm getting my heading information, position information, pressure, so I can, in my nav pages I got pressure, so you can see if you do have a rising or falling barometer, and that does affect fish of course. Water temp, so that's my own, so that's the transducer information. And my heave, this is the one we had to get going, the SCX20, so that I get the heave compensation happening. So hit escape. Data source, and this was the other place we had to set up the SCX. You've got to do the two of them, and I think I'd only done the one, so we were missing all the information. So once again, speed over ground, etc, etc. Heaves off the SCX20. Not connected on an Enemy A83 network, but I am on the 2000 network, so you can go like device list, and we can see my FCV-800, my sat compass, and I've got a little old Lowrance LGC GPS aerial there, and a global map GPS plotter. So they're just on my 2000 network, and then I just added the Furuno to that because it was a powered up 2000 network already. So you got your little backbone hubs, you just got to make sure you got the right terminals, and you got to put the little ends on the end. So anyway, I got a little 2000 network going, and that'll work perfect. Yeah, Enemy A output if I was shooting it across to something else, etc. LAN, yeah, I don't have any LAN stuff, but I think that must be, oh, that's wireless. Yeah, okay, so you can set all that up. You know, the old Furunos had a LAN network with the old you know, network cables that you'd use on your home computer, but there's no ports for that on this one. Calibration, okay, so this is an important menu that I use quite a bit. So draft, if you're in a deep draft boat and your transducer's way down, you could set that up. So because I'm running on auto gain, this is where my gain is set up relative to each other automatically in here. So I've got my high frequency on -1 and I've got my LF on -30, because what I find myself having to do is I jump, if I'm on auto gain, I'm jumping between auto fishing gain for clarity, auto cruising gain for clarity, or auto fishing gain if I expect to see fish and I'm not seeing them and I want a little bit more extra gain. So I can just do that with the auto rather than actually manually doing manual range. I will run manual range, usually marlin fishing. I run a bit more power trying to mark them, and then obviously on the shelf up to a certain point, probably up to 250, 300, I'm pretty happy on auto. Once you start getting over 300 especially, then you got to start tweaking it manually usually, so then I'm going in there. Temperature, I've got mine pumped up +2 just so that I'm sort of reading. I haven't ever set it with a thermocouple thermometer or anything, but I've just got a gut feel. Everyone else out on the day what they're telling me. Speed through the water, if you had a try juicer you can, obviously set that up. And your fish size, I guess if you're using the fish size thing and you've got a feeling that you're a bit out, you can use that. Water type salt, obviously not fresh. Zero line, don't reject it, don't use that. Area, don't use that. Bottom detect, don't worry about that. Bottom level, bottom hardness, yeah, don't play all that. And then we definitely got to play in here, heave sensor setting. So the heave calibration is on. The delay is 10, I think that was default, and that's milliseconds. And this here is important too, your position. So you set up with your little menu here where where the heave sensor is in this one, and where your transducer position is. And then with the pitch and roll and everything, and the gyro information coming from the sat compass, the Furuno engineers have worked it out to try and cancel out the wave action with the heave. So that's calibration menu, transducer. So this is where you got your 2 transducer ports and an M&EA 2000 port and a USB output. So 1 kilowatt on my one transducer. I don't have a second one. So that's your transducers. Service, yeah, shouldn't need to do any of this, I guess. Or you got your factory default. If you want to do a reset, I guess in the future there'll be updates available here, etc, etc. So hopefully you don't need to get into this menu too often. Okay, so that was the menu button. Then the range button. So I'm running on manual, so you can go across we're going up and down. So this is your manual ranges. Scroll and push back to 5, or hit range and go across, and you can go to manual or auto, so it'll automatically adjust your range as you're running along. I'd rather run everything manual, and then that's my custom depth ranges that I use. Escape, so that was range. Now gain, so this is, like I said, I'm running mostly either between auto cruising if I want to clean the screen up a bit, or auto fishing if I expect to see more fish on the screen than I'm seeing in cruising gain. They're not there, I might pump up a bit more gain by going to fishing gain. Then if I want to go into manual gain, you hit off. So now up here you can see my gains on 42, so like 0 to 100. So the old range it would have been 4.2, and this is where I can just start playing with my manual gain. And if you had split display with different frequencies, you can actually jump between the two and adjust them independently. So I go back to say cruising gain, that's the gain button, cursor button, function. So this is my shift. Now this little bit different, it goes to 30 now before it starts going in increments. So that's 30 in increments of 1, and then it starts doing increments of 10. But that's pretty good, and it's because it's on this dial button, it's very fast. So I might, in this depth, you might only want to shift at 1. Now I go back to 0, hit escape. Now the only other thing too to notice, you can see it just here. When you start getting in a bit of wave action and the sat compass is working and taking the heave out, it does it up the top of the screen here. So you'll see little waves up here on the top of your screen, and then you know that the sat compass is working in heave mode. That's pretty, and that's why Chop and Shane sort of knew that I hadn't had it working, because I hadn't got these waves up the top of the screen, which is the wave action down the bottom it's cancelling out. So this is the mark button. So like I say, well, I just had a fish go past there before, so we hit mark and we use the scroll back. Let's go find the old fish. So I thought it was supposed to go back into history, but it's only letting me go on the screen. But say this little high spot here was a little high spot, hit mark again, and there it gives us our Latin along that drawn thing. And if it was a Furuno, it would have thrown it across onto the Furuno, but in my instance I would then manually set that in to my plotter and I'd have it. So that was the mark. So I'm already up to number 7, so at some stage I'll fill that up and I'll have to delete them all. So that was the mark. Now that's pretty much it in a nutshell, I guess. Yeah, well, hopefully you've learned something from this video, and a lot of thanks to Mark Chop-Reed and Shane Beardmore from Furuno for guiding me through a fair few of these setup things. Also my local Furuno guy Peter Mueller, Suncoast Marine Electrical, and he's also now Cavalcat out at Yandina. So thanks for those guys for putting this all together for me and giving me the guidance. But it's certainly yeah, there's a lot of little tweaks from the old series that make it so much better. You know, I used the 585 for 15 years or whatever, and just 1 year with the 588. They did the job well, and they're still good units, but obviously you move with the times, and you know, Mr. Furuno's made some pretty good advances with this machine, and I can thoroughly recommend it. Alright, until next time, see you later. Okay, bye.